I have been given a topic, cardiovascular risk management and new challenges. I'll be taking you through a journey of a risk factor. This was a recent article in the Times of India. It said that India's #1 killer by 2015, 1 in 4 Indians will die of a heart attack. 10% patients are under 30 years of age. Again, the risk for women has also gone up about 200%. Every fourth person by 2020 will be having the heart problem. Heart attack is not the #1 problem, but still what we are facing is a socio-economic problem. Still we are seeing that on one side swine flu, malaria, dengue is killing the patient, and on the other side we are talking about the lifestyle diseases. Still the poverty is there. We are talking about the overeating, obesity on one side, that is a balanced diet we are not getting, and on one side people are not getting the food. And if we look at the deaths, that is the main culprit is the ischemic heart disease, then comes the cerebrovascular disease. Still the infectious disease also forms the important part of the disease deaths. Road traffic accident, which road traffic accidents, and that has moved to the first number. We are talking about the global thrombosis, global warming. I think it's only in when they have myocardial infarct, they have hypertensive emergencies, acute renal failure, and that is the tip of the iceberg what we treat. What lies below the iceberg is the problem, and there I think the doctor should play an important role. We should be in our practice in search of a vulnerable patient, so that risk stratification of patient is important, so that we can decide that which patient is going to develop a myocardial infarct, cerebrovascular accident, and can we really prevent that? We all want to be a strong, happy, young, beautiful son in Sri Lanka's having a genetic predisposition for developing this atherosclerotic heart diseases, but in our forefathers it was not predominant, but now it's become a predominant. Again, the lack of exercise and psychosocial factors have played an important role. If we analyze our lifestyle, all these factors have increased, and the most important in the nutrition, it is the obesogenic environment, and which is changing the pattern of diseases. This National Institute for Animal Nutrition had put a slide, your pets get a scientific and balanced diet, do you really get it? Because of diet, we are seeing that the B1, B6, B12 deficiency is very common. Vitamin D deficiency is very common, and that's prone for atherosclerotic heart disease. If you see that the vitamin D deficiency is linked with hypertension, heart attack, arrhythmias, memory problems, sleep problems, stroke. If B1, B6, B12 is deficient, the methionine formation is not there, and hyperhomocystinemia causing a lot of thrombosis. And young patients, we see that the patients coming with a lot of thrombotic problems. And one of the most important reasons for cardiovascular disease is the lack of physical activity. And 36% of death from coronary artery disease in men and 38% in women are due to the lack of physical activity. This slide is very important, I think. As we know that the rates of petrol and the demand has increased, and the way the petrol rates increase, similarly the diabetes increase in India. And we say that the diabetes is the capital of the world. In India is the capital of for diabetes. This is what is the situation nowadays. Our dogs are running on the treadmills and we are sitting aside and watching the TV. And they say that when you are watching a TV for more than 2 hours a day, the coronary artery disease, heart attack and the strokes have increased almost 3 to 5 folds. And this is an important slide about the Indians. We have abdominal obesity. And what we see in that there is a intravisceral fat which is very common in Indians, and that is what is the culprit for developing a coronary artery disease and the stroke. I think individuals' reaction to a disturbing factors in the environment, and that's what is called as a stress. And this is one of the important factor of developing a coronary artery disease, myocardial infarct in the young patients. अरे इला कोणी आपण लगेच कार्य करतो. I think type A personality is the backbone of the Indians. We are very ambitious and aggressive people, and that's why again the coronary artery disease is very common. Again, the sleep has been linked with the hypertension, coronary artery disease, and in that, obstructive sleep apnea is one of the important risk factor for developing a hypertension, diabetes, and the coronary artery disease. Smoking, as we all know about that. Alcohol, again, it's a controversy. Nasik is a winery capital, and they say that the wine is good for the heart. There is a French paradox, but really it's a controversial subject. About the woman, we say that in women the coronary artery disease is not so common. But on contrary, I went through the literature, and what I found is that the number one killer in women is heart attack. It's not the breast cancer, uterine cancer, but it's a heart problem. And for man, it's only simple button, but for woman, it's not only the disease, but it's also the management is also a problem. Because in women, because of the short stature and the obesity, their vessels are short. If we do angioplasty and bypass, the risk stenosis rate is also more. So it's difficult to manage women in practical life also, and when it comes with a disease also. About the hypertension, when we talk about the risk factor, when it comes to a management part, it's basically hypertension, diabetes, and the lipids. And in hypertension, if we look at the literature, it's a triple paradox. It's easy to diagnose, but often remains undetected. Simple to treat, but often remains untreated. And despite availability of potent drugs, treatment all too often is ineffective. And the fourth problem is the compliance. Patients don't take medicines on time, or if they take it for 1 or 2 months, they will not continue the medicines. It's a multifactorial entity. It is therefore not surprising that heterogeneity in responsive to treatment. There is no simple way of predicting which patients will respond to which class of antihypertensive agents. So this is important. So when we say about the hypertension management, it's a stage of hypertension, associated risk factors. Is there any associated target organ damage or not? Associated clinical conditions and secondary causes. When we see a patient of hypertension, we have to evaluate for all these factors so that we can decide the line of treatment. When only patient of hypertension comes to us and we want to start aspirin or statins or not. So in that, most important thing is the stratification of risk factors. If patient has a BP of more than 180 and 110 millimeters of mercury, he falls into a very high added risk. He needs aspirin and statins. But if he falls into stage 1 or stage 2 hypertension only, and he has only 1 or 2 risk factors, he is only moderate added risk. If he has 3 or more risk factors associated with hypertension, then only we say that he is in high added risk and he will require aspirin and statins. If in the age more than 50, family history of premature coronary artery disease, smoking and HDL-C cholesterol less than 40, if these factors combine, then only in hypertension we should start statins. If we look at the guidelines of 2013 about the statins, which patients we should use the statins, they have included the stroke also in a atherosclerotic coronary vascular risk factor, and statin therapy is recommended in 4 groups nowadays, and that is adults with clinical atherosclerotic coronary cardiovascular disease, adults with LDL cholesterol more than 190 mg per deciliter, adults 40 to 75 years of age with diabetes, and adults if the risk evaluation is more than 7.5% by the formula which is given. And what we used to look at the LDL cholesterol more less than 70 and total cholesterol less than 160. But now newer guidelines say that you don't look at the values. Utilization is also important. If patient is falling below the 7.5% ASCVD risk, what should be done? The optional additional risk measurements are important. Family history of premature coronary artery disease. If hsCRP is positive, that means inflammatory markers are positive. If the calcium is there on the CT angio and the patient's ankle branchial index is hampered. So these are the patients who will be at the and increasing the HDL-C is important. And this is for calculating you have to have a sex, age, total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, systolic blood pressure, and diabetes and smoking is there or not. And accordingly you can calculate the ASCVD risk score. If it is more than 10, you require a statins. If it is between 7.5 to 10, lifestyle modification is important. So medical history, family history, symptoms of cardiovascular disease, physical examination and the lab test of cholesterol, and if the any history of cerebrovascular disease, peripheral diabetes, kidney disease. So your risk stratification is important while starting the statins. High risk of CVD, aspirin, blood pressure control, cholesterol control, smoking should be stopped. D, diet and weight management, diabetes and sugar control, and the exercise. This is the ABCDE of managing the high risk atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. As I said that the intermediate risk patient do a CT angio for coronary calcium score, do inflammatory markers which is CRP is available, and if that is positive, patient falls into a high risk coronary disease, death in men and women. And diabetes without any prior evidence of CHD indicates a higher risk than prior evidence of CHD without diabetes. So HbA1c should be less than 7. Initially we used to say that it should be less than 6, but associated less than 6 problems are of hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia creates more rise in the heart rate during the hypoglycemia. Insulin levels are increased and that causes a more metabolic syndrome. Weight gain is more, so that controlling the diabetes less than 7 is okay. Between 6, don't try to achieve it below 6 because hypoglycemia episodes are more. If you look at the different literature about the diabetes, it increases the 2 to 3-fold increase of the cardiovascular risk factors when patient has a diabetes. And as we all know about the diabetes, it's a micropathy and micropathy which both are important in diabetes, and that's why you need to control the blood pressure, dyslipidemia and diabetes to prevent the microvascular complications. Macrovascular complications, they say that even though you control the diabetes, they may not be preventable. And about the challenges and solutions, what we are talking about the newer molecule. So intents have been given, really we follow them or not. And in that, the new molecule that is a polypill, which can be helpful in controlling the risk factors. We have talked about all these risk factors. And as we say that the control of a blood pressure is very important, but the adequate BP control is seen only 30 to 40% of people. Almost 50 to 60% people BP is not controlled because of 2 to 3 medicines patient has to take. Compliance is a problem, cost is a problem. Implementation of guidelines in a risk management, and if you see that the different literatures, American, Europeans also, the guidelines, antiplatelet 25%, means according to the guidelines that these drugs which should be used, they are used completely or therapeutically in a complete range is only 25 to 30% patients. 70% patients don't reach their targets, or as per the guidelines they are not managed. And if you look at the prevention hypertension trials, ATP3 trials, they again say that cardiovascular risk prevention and management in usual daily practice, it's not reaching the guidelines or therapeutic goals. Discontinuation of medicines. What problem we see with the diabetes, hypertension is basically number of diabetes is controlled. They feel that they are good, they stop the medicines on their own. Cost is also an issue. So that almost 65% patients drop out from the treatment part, and that's the biggest worry while treating these patients. 4 patients in 2010 to 2011 in India and Europe, and their objective was to assess the delivery of aspirin, statin and antihypertensive drugs versus usual care improves long-term adherence to medication or not. And in that, they found that the single tablet or a polypill which was used, almost 77% continued the tablet, when only usual care 23% only continued the medicine. So single tablet made a lot of difference in adherence to the treatment. And this is what the Polycap which has been developed, and in that if you see that there is a aspirin that is 100 milligram, Ramipril that is a 5 milligram, Simvastatin is 20 milligram that is LDL lowering, atenolol that is beta blocker 50 milligram, and hydrochlorothiazide is a 12.5 milligram diuretic. So there are 3 antihypertensive drugs, Ramipril, atenolol and hydrochlorothiazide. One is for statins, cholesterol reduction, and the salicylic acid as an antiplatelet drug. And they found that it maintained the bioavailability, no pharmacokinetic interactions were there, and 92% patients completed the trial, and Polycap preserved the individual pharmacokinetic profile. And if this is the main important thing, include adherence and compliance, and thereby reducing the risk factors. And as we all know that we all say that triple combination therapy of hypertension, BP control is much better and the side effects are very less. And the same was seen here, reduced side effects, and most importantly the cost, which is always the issue when in our practice, the cost savings are there. So Polycap, which has been which is in market by Cadila, with patients with established coronary vascular disease with or without hypertension. We all know cardiovascular coronary artery disease and stroke are the biggest killers. Hypertension and dyslipidemia are major risk factors, and risk factors require early recognition and effective control. And as we all know that the new guidelines recommend the Polypid for effective dyslipidemia management and thereby controlling the risk factors, and which will benefit in the reducing the morbidity and mortality in the cardiovascular and the stroke patients.